China's alleged attempts to interfere with our democracy. The Prime Minister seemed very frustrated yesterday by the CSIS leaks, but intelligence sources are leaking to the media because they don't see your government taking action. Did the Prime Minister just double down on a dismissive message to our security agencies?
Well, first I would say that we have been saying for years that foreign interference represents a serious threat to our institutions, including our elections, and that is why we have put in place a number of tools that will assist our intelligence community and other agencies that operate within the public safety apparatus to mitigate against those risks. We have also made sure that those mechanisms include ones that drive transparency. I would point out that we have created 2 independent panels that are made up of our top professional, nonpartisan public servants who examine the information that they need and who concluded that the elections in 2019 and 2021 were not compromised. In other words, the outcomes were that those elections were held in a manner that was free and fair. And this is important to stress, that Canadians and Canadians alone determine the outcomes of our elections by voting at the ballot box. Later this week, in fact, I believe tomorrow, the public will have an opportunity to hear from a number of officials who will testify about this so that we can be upfront about the complexities that lie in the landscape. But I want to assure everybody that we have put in place exactly the mechanisms and the tools that we need to mitigate against the threats which are posed by foreign interference as it relates to our elections and our democratic institutions.
How appropriate is it to choose Morris Rosenberg to write a report on election interference, given its ties to the Trudeau Foundation and what the Conservatives call his involvement in directing Chinese money to the organization?
Well, again, I want to state very clearly that the panels that we have appointed are made up of non-partisan, professional, independent public servants. This is not a partisan issue. The threat of foreign interference could have an impact on all parties, and therefore we should be united in doing this work together in a non-partisan way. The conclusions that have been arrived at through the site panel in 2019 and 2021 are there for all the public to see in a way that assures those who participate in the election, and indeed all Canadians, that those elections were conducted in a manner that was free and fair. Now, we will continue to be upfront with Canadians by leveraging the value of transparency through the creation of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, through the creation of the National Security Intelligence Review Agency, through these 2 panels, who again are not made up of political partisans, but rather by nonpartisan public servants who are independent. They do their work in a manner that is free and clear of partisanship, and that's very important, through the testimony that will be offered by our public officials tomorrow and beyond. And we will continue to be eyes wide open about the complexities of foreign interference so that we can protect our elections, our democratic institutions, and indeed all institutions.
Your government hasn't been clear about whether any individual ridings were affected by foreign influence. Why won't you explicitly tell Canadians whether or not that's the case?
We're going to continue to be upfront and transparent with Canadians when it comes to the threats that are posed to our democratic institutions.
What about individual ridings?
We will continue to be upfront through testimony, through reports, through the work of the National Security Committee of Parliamentarians. You heard the Prime Minister just yesterday say that the most recent report has been delivered to the NSI COP, and it is the government's hope that they will continue to study the issue of how we can best protect our democratic institutions. And this is not an issue that just affects Canada. What we are seeing around the world in the geopolitical landscape is, yes, obviously an increase in the threat of foreign interference, and like-minded countries are working together. Just last fall in Germany, where I attended on behalf of our country with the G7, I invited our counterparts to have a conversation about these issues and disinformation here in Canada. It is important that we are eyes wide open about these threats and that we do this work by giving the agencies the tools that they need, but with the corresponding transparency and accountability that is required so that Canadians can be confident in their institutions and will continue to be assured that when they vote, that they and they alone are the ones that determine the outcomes of the elections in which they participate in. That is the commitment of this government, and we will continue to follow through on it.